Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Business from the Bass Boat on the Serious Angler Network. Guys, today I'm excited for the show. We've got an awesome guest lined up. Missed last week. We had kind of a couple of different cancellations, and we didn't get one out. So apologize for that. But this week's show, super excited to get him on here. Someone who I followed and actually I think met college fishing a while back, and have kind of followed his career and everything he does, both fishing wise and for the company he works for. And that is none other than Jake Biram. Jake is with Dynamic Sponsorships, and he's got a cool role there that we're going to dig into. And I just really wanted to dig into what he does and how he kind of got to the position he is today. So without further ado, let's bring Jake in. Jake, what's going on, man?
Adam, how are you, man? Thanks for having me on. I've been looking forward to it.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for making this work. Dude, you just getting ready. We're in the middle of fishing season right now, so always getting ready for another derby. I'm sure kind of similar there. Yeah, overall everything's good. But what about yourself?
Been good, man. We just finished up Red Crest here in Tulsa in our backyard last week. So super busy week for us. It was a good event. Cool to do something new, cool to do a new event, and doing a little work this week, and then getting ready to head to Texoma for a Toyota Series on Saturday. Kicks off next Thursday, so I'm looking forward to getting back to fishing a little bit.
Yeah, man. Yeah, well, we will definitely get into Red Crest here in a second. But, man, I will be joining you. I'm going to go fish the Toyota Series as well on Texoma as a co-angler with Holland Hall, Farm and Ranch Real Estate Group I work for. I'm actually going to head down to Lubbock before then. And so I just figured, man, with how much practice, I'm probably not going to get. I may just jump in as a co, and I enjoy fishing as a co sometimes too, and can learn a bunch. So maybe we could draw each other.
I hope so. I would enjoy that. Have you ever been to Texoma before?
Dude, I haven't, and it's a place I would really like to. I like the idea. I love fisheries that have smallmouth and largemouth. And
yeah, it's a neat place. I've been lucky to fish on there a few times, and it's a good lake. So hopefully we hit it at a good time where it looks right, and hopefully they'll be biting a little bit.
Yeah, and that's man. Yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day. Like, I mean, do you think it'll still be a pre-spawn deal? Do you think they'll be on the bed? I mean, what's kind of your thoughts at this point?
I think it'll be pre-spawn. We'll see. I mean, there might be a few spawning. I was actually looking at the moon phase yesterday, and I think we're going to have like a new moon or something while we're there. So I don't know. I could see a few spawning, but I think next week there's a full moon. The week after we fish, there's a full moon. So I would imagine that'll probably be the first big wave, but
Sure.
I would think mostly a pre-spawn deal.
I got you.
But they should be shallow, I imagine. Throwing a square bill and maybe a little bit of flipping and stuff like that. So it should be fun nonetheless.
Yeah, dude. Did you fish because the Texoma event last year was it a couple weeks earlier than this year?
Yeah, I fished it last year. I want to say I actually had the memory pop up on my Facebook. I think it was last week. So
okay.
We'll be a couple weeks later. And I don't think they were spawning, but I caught, man, my biggest fish on the second day I caught out from underneath a dock, and its tail was all white and bloody. And so I was like, well, I couldn't see it, so I can't say for sure if it was on a bed or not. But like I said, I think it'll be mostly pre-spawn, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was a few spawning, especially since we're going to be there a little bit later. And looks like it's going to be in the 80s. Have some temps in the 80s early next week. So
I saw that, dude. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I think it'll be a good time to be there, and whether it's like right before pre-spawn when they're moving shallow. I mean, it's a great time to catch some really big ones, and a lot of them. Or if they're on the bed, I love fishing both those situations, and I just the smallmouth side of it's really cool to me. I just don't generally. I guess the only lake that I've been to in Oklahoma that's been like that would be Ten Killer. Ten Killer is really cool that way, where you get kind of both sides of things.
Yeah, Texoma's neat because you can fish super dirty water if you run up the lake, and you can go fish like bluff walls and really clear water down at the dam. I know last year when we were there, it was super, super clear at the dam.
Really?
You could probably, I say super, super clear. For Oklahoma, it was really clear. You could probably see 5 or 6 feet.
That's clear, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a really neat lake. I think you'll like it. It's you can kind of do a little bit of whatever you want.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. And normally, like here anyway, like all the smallmouth will spawn first, and then we'll kind of, you'll have that phase of where both largemouth and smallmouth are on beds, and then kind of more just largemouth. But it'll be interesting to see if like you could find like 5 or 6 foot, like a little bit deeper beds that have smallmouth on them or something.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. I've never sight fished for smallmouth, but I would imagine that, you could probably do it there, given the water clarity. So
Yeah, I can tell you this: they're way easier to catch than largemouth on the bed.
yeah, that's what everyone says. That's what everyone says. I need some of that in my life right now. As a matter of fact, it seems like every time I go fishing, it's so dang tough that give me something easy for a little bit,
Dude,
just for a day. Give me something easy.
I don't know. Like I was talking about this with a buddy last week. It's like the last year, and then even this year, I just fished a local derby here on Pueblo Reservoir in Colorado, and it was freaking brutal, dude. Like I mean, just horrible fishing. And it's like I don't know what it is about some of these tournaments here lately, but like they haven't been fun. Like it's just been
Yeah,
like it's
no,
just been brutal.
it's been the same way here. A buddy of mine from college, we fished a little local tournament a couple weeks ago on Grand, right before Red Crest. It was the weekend before. And I think we caught like 10 keepers that day. And we were both so pumped because we were like, yes, we caught 10 keepers and, culled a few times. It seems like every time we've gone, like you said, it's been, you catch 5 if you're lucky, or you might catch 6 or 7 if it's a really good day. So we were
Yeah,
super stoked to just catch 10. We were kind of laughing about it on the drive home.
that's
Um,
awesome.
but yeah, I agree with you, man. It seems like it's been so tough for the last year. Like every time you go, you're just fishing for 5, it seems like. So
Yeah, literally. And I don't know if that's just like fishing pressure and everyone. And I'm sure there's someone that's like, oh, fishing for 5. Like, man, I've been fishing for 20 bites and that's what I'm doing here, this and there. But it's like, I don't know. Some of these lakes seem to be getting a lot of pressure and derby after derby goes to them. And it's like, you got to get 5 bites to even, I mean, you got to get 5 bites. And that is hard to do
yeah,
sometimes.
I mean, especially around here, on a place like Grand that just every weekend it's got, at least one 200 plus boat team tournament, and then a couple other smaller ones thrown on top of that. All the local traffic, it's never ending.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, man.
So
Dude, well, let's talk a little bit about Grand and Red Crest. From your perspective of things too, I guess maybe to start before we go into Red Crest, let's talk about dynamic sponsorships and your role there, and then we'll kind of get into the expo and everything that you saw there at the event.
okay, yeah. So Dynamic is a turnkey marketing agency, and we just kind of specialize in the outdoors. So primarily bass fishing. We have ventured into a few other different spaces here and there. In the past, I've done some work for like Bushnell and Gander Mountain and stuff like that. But primary roles in bass fishing. So we work with clients such as Toyota, Costa, Yamaha, Carhartt, and we do a whole lot of stuff in the marketing scheme of things, in the marketing realm. We really specialize in event activation. So if you go to like a Bassmaster Elite Series event, or a Bassmaster Classic, or Red Crest, and you see like Toyota's got a setup there, and like we call that an activation.
Okay.
So Toyota would have we'll have some vehicles there. And it's really just to inform the consumer about the vehicles. We have like little games, like trivia games and stuff like that, where they can go through and win little prizes while learning about the vehicles. On top of event activation, we do manage contingency programs. So like the Toyota Bonus Bucks, the Yamaha Power Pay, Costa Compete and Conserve. Those are 3 of our most popular. We also do digital and social media stuff, public relations, do some pro team management for like namely the Toyota fishing team and stuff like that. So we do a little bit of everything, really.
Yeah, no, man, and some major brands supporting the fishing industry. I think that's the coolest part of this. I mean, especially even from the endemic sides, but the non-endemics, like we're talking about Carhartt and Toyota, like those are 2 companies that, in my eyes, like go hand in hand with fishing. And I don't think that was the case, 10 years ago, or whenever I guess Toyota Bonus Buck started and all that kind of a thing. Like that seemed to be a really big push, and it's cool to see that Dynamic was really kind of the ones behind that. It sounds like.
Yeah. So they, came up with the idea of the Bonus Bucks program. I think coming up on 15 years. I know
Wow,
that last
a lot
October
more
that
than 10 years.
yeah, well, our last October we celebrated 10 years. We do an annual owners event for the Bonus
Yep.
Bucks program, and that was the 10th anniversary one. We gave away a brand new Tundra to somebody. So it's really neat. It's really cool to see the ideas that the people in our office have come up with, and how it's really grown the industry, and done some new stuff, such as the Bonus Bucks program. It was the first contingency program for a truck in the industry. And just to see how it's grown, and how Toyota is so associated with bass fishing now, and Carhartt and some of the other brands that we work with.
That's so cool, dude. No, that's awesome. And now, like, to kind of steer away from that, we'll definitely get more back into that. Let's talk, before I forget, let's talk Red Crest. Let's talk about Grand. I was able to tune in live the first couple days and then kind of tailored off because I was fishing a tournament here. But looked awesome. How was the expo? How was your first thoughts? I mean, it's cool to see something Red Crest happen, and it's cool that it's right there at home with you. What were your initial thoughts from the expo?
Yeah, we all thought it was a good event.
Yeah.
Everything went well. It was smooth. We had a really good crowd on Saturday. Friday was pretty busy for, still being a weekday. And Sunday was pretty busy as well. A little bit busier than Friday.
Yeah.
But not quite as busy as Saturday. So it's really cool to see. Tulsa is really a pretty big fishing community. We're in the heart of, so many good tournament lakes around here, and there's just so many people that like to fish. There's actually a lot of industry in Tulsa. We also have Lowrance is here, Quantum and Zebco's here, Gene LaRue was here at one time. So it was really cool to see the Tulsa crowd show out for the first one. Everything went well on our end. It was neat to do something a little bit different. I mean, it was pretty similar to some of the other shows and expos that we've done in the past, but there were some, just a little bit different feel. It was just something fresh and new. Kind of exciting to be the first one, and really knew how it was going to go. We knew what we wanted to do on our end, but overall, like, just to see who all showed up, what other companies were there, and kind of what their booth space looked like. It was neat. It was neat to do something new, and especially it was nice to have one in our backyard. We rarely get that, so
yeah,
usually
cool.
We're on the road. So it was good overall. I think we all thought it was a good weekend.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, I mean, how many activations, I guess, or how many times are you guys going to events? I mean, obviously classic, right, and other kind of fishing shows, but I've even seen you working booths at the opens, man. Like at an open, I've seen you, pass stuff out, and then like you're fishing that derby the next day. So I mean,
yeah. So we
you're
do
always traveling.
As a company, we do, gosh, I don't know how many events we have on our calendar this year, but we do all the Elite Series events. We do the Classic. I think on this year we had maybe 5 MLF events, whether that be BPT or Pro Circuit events. Red Crest, we do a good chunk of the NASCAR events for Toyota as well.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah. So, gosh, that's probably another 9 or 10. And then we do a few other, like, just kind of one-off events here and there. For instance, like Mickey Thompson Tires and Wheels is one of our other clients. And we're activating at Tortuga Music Festival in Fort Lauderdale, Florida next week.
Oh, so man, that'll
we
be
just
fun.
do, I mean, I would say we probably have 40 or 50 events on the calendar this year. So I know, like, some of our team, I'm not up there, obviously, I'm at home here in Tulsa, but some of our team went straight from Red Crest on Sunday night. They left Monday morning for the World Fishing Fair in Springfield. The Bass Pro Shops event that's going on. So Toyota was activating up there. So, I mean, it's, like I said, probably somewhere in the ballpark of 40 to 50 a year.
Wow.
So, and then for the opens, that's a little bit different. Where they're promoting Yamaha Power Pay and Toyota Bonus Bucks. And so there's a team of us who fish. I know some people might be familiar with, like, Teb Jones and Daryl Gleason. They've been, fishing the opens for a while. Daryl's on the Elite Series now. And kind of part of our deal is to go at those registrations and just promote those programs and get anglers signed up who maybe don't know about them or maybe recently purchased a Toyota or a Yamaha, and just bring awareness to the program and get people signed up if they're eligible. So it is a lot of travel, though, for sure.
Yeah.
So, but between the working and the fishing, so it's kind of ironic that a good majority of our team doesn't fish. Some of our guys in Tulsa here at the office do fish pretty casually. But most of our road crew, they don't fish at all. It's just kind of a job. They enjoy the sport because they've been doing it for so long. They enjoy keeping up with it, but it's just work, more or less.
Sure. No, that's an interesting thought because I've had that thought too. So, like, with the company I work for, I mostly at this point am less so, I guess, on the road to some extent, going in and looking at some of these farms and ranches from the financing perspective. But I did that more a couple of years ago. But then as I've transitioned more into fishing more often and traveling more, it's like, man, 2 things where I'm on the road all the time was a lot. So now it's like my fishing is on the road, and then I'm like, okay, more of my work is at home-based kind of office situation.
Yeah,
but that's a lot, dude.
It can definitely be tough to balance. So we have an office here in Tulsa. I'm actually just a contractor for Dynamic, so mostly just doing events on the road. We've got, I think, 8 or so people in our office here, and being a pretty small company, everyone kind of does a little bit of everything. So half the people in our office travel and do, whether it's like Luke Stoner, who I know a lot of people, if you fish college, you probably know Luke. He's on the road doing coverage at the Elite Series, and he'll help with some of the activations. And got some other guys in our office that will go and work the activations as well here and there. But I'm mostly on the road. Being in Tulsa, I do kind of like a little bit of hybrid. I will do some stuff around the office if need be. But I would say 95% is on the road for what I do. Just going event to event and setting it up and, kind of managing it, making sure everything's running smoothly, and then breaking it down and going to the next one.
And fishing in between, man.
And trying to fish in between. Yeah.
Dude, I'm with you, man. That's awesome. Very similar path as far as just trying to figure out a way to be able to fish and work and kind of do both. And man, it can be a grind sometimes. But
yeah, and it can be super tough to find something to, especially if you're wanting to fish, some higher level stuff like Toyota Series or Opens where you need to take like a whole week off. As I'm sure that you've learned. I know I certainly did after I got out of school. It was really hard to find something that, gives you that time to, peel off for a week and go fish. Maybe 4 or 5 times crammed into a 6-month window in the spring. So
yeah, and I think it's a message too that's like important to get out to people who are interested in fishing tournaments and having a career. That's kind of been more of my interest. It was like at first it was like full career, and then it was like, hey, 3 weeks of vacation isn't going to work for this at all. Like it's not going to be enough time. But then I leaned into kind of a little bit of both, and then I was like, man, I don't know 100%. Like I want to take fishing as far as I can go, but I also like the benefits of having a career and a paycheck and buying a house and like those kinds of things that aren't necessarily, if you're all in on fishing, super accessible.
So especially early on.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that having the ability to say, hey, look, I can be an independent contractor in this situation. I don't necessarily have to be a traditional W-2 employee and have this, and this. Like there's ways to make that work to where you can still have an income and fish on the side. And that'd be like a good subject for like a whole nother podcast, but like going in through like, what are some jobs to where you can kind of do some of that? Because I think that's a situation you've kind of worked out, and myself included, in that there's ways to kind of do both, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I mean, it's not tough. And I think that I know for me personally, like I thought, when I was in high school and college and, as I got older, the more like obvious it became just, how difficult it is, to kind of find that balance. And I know that, you brought up having a steady income and a paycheck and buying a house. And I knew that those were all things that I wanted. And like, I would still absolutely love to have a career like just full-time fishing. And like, if that works out, like that's kind of the carrot I'll always be chasing.
Right.
And I'm just like to the point where like, I'm not gonna, quit my job and just be like a fishing bum per se. But like, I'm like, if it works out, it works out. Like if, whether it takes a couple years or, whether it happens later on in my life, like I, would love to get the opportunity to at least try it. But at the same time, I didn't want to, I always told myself that I was going to do it. I was going to try and do it in a way, in my eyes, that was the smart way to do it.
And I wanted jeopardizing your future.
Right. I wanted to give myself some like longevity because I know it's not an overnight thing, right? Like I'm 24. There's so much to learn. And I wasn't willing to like put everything else on hold necessarily and like jump, say, into all 9 opens. Like for some guys, it works out like, they can do it and it works out and that's great. But for me personally, I'm a lot like you. I wanted to have an income and I wanted to buy a house, and I'm getting married later this year. And I was like, those are all things that, I feel like if I do it the smart way, I can still merge both without the risk of burnout so fast. Because I'm like, I've like done the math into fish all 9 opens. I mean, you're looking at $20,000 in entry fees. Yeah. Plus another 20 or say you're, 40 to 50,000.
Yeah.
And you do it, say you can do it for a couple of years. Well, that's great. And if it doesn't work out, I know at least in my shoes, if it didn't work out in 2 years or 3 years, I'm like, well, now what? I'd rather just, sounds like a lot like what, what you've thought through. I'd rather just give myself the longevity and, if it happens, it happens. And, if it doesn't, we'll just kind of adjust our goals and keep moving forward.
Yeah, man. Always with that progress mindset. I like that. And I think too that I think that we're seeing more and more some of these guys where they are reaching a super high level in tournament fishing in their 40s, right? In their late 30s, like they're in their 50s. Like there's guys like that is a Jamie Hartman, for instance, right? On the Elite Series, like guys who are kind of taking this step later on in life. And I think it's a cool aspect of our sport. Like you have the guys who have the premier talent, the one percenters, right? The Brandon Poliniks who come out super young, get it figured out, get it dialed in, and are just incredible. And then some of the guys that risk it all early and figure out a way to make it work. And then there's guys who are like kind of sound like yourself and it's like, man, I don't know if I'm ever going to get there. I'm going to keep striving as I go, but like I'm happy with the idea of also not completely wasting my future and having an income and doing things that I want to do that are also goals of mine.
Right. Yeah. Then that's exactly how I've looked at it. I know when I was younger, I was like, wanted to be all in on it. And I think it was just, being a little, young and a little bit naive. And kind of as I got older and like kind of saw the inner workings of the industry, I just saw, how tough it is to actually make a living fishing. And how many guys, I mean, gosh, just the tournament road, there's so many just, it's a trail of bodies of guys who got burnt out along the way. It
Yeah.
really is. I mean, it's amazing just the turnover.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just kind of as I got older and learned more about it, I just like evaluated what I wanted to do. And I was like, I love to travel and fish. Like I get so bored fishing the same places around my house. So I'm like, no matter what, like I always want to be able to compete at a high level, whether it be the Toyota Series or the Opens. And that in turn gives me, a real possibility of, getting a shot to fish at, the tour or, the Elite Series. And that's kind of what I always want to strive for. But yet, like you said, you're not sacrificing everything else.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to try it for 2 years and like be out of money or burnt out on it because it wasn't going well, and then like hate fishing. Like that's and like it certainly happens.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to try and not have that happen if possible.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, right? Like, and I kind of experienced this. So I went from being a full-time W-2 employee to going independent contractor and really fished a ton last year. And like I loved a ton of it and I loved a lot of it. But at the same time, it was like it's hard when your passion and everything turns into like, hey, I need to like actually try and really make money at this. And you see some of that grind and stuff, and it's like, man, some of that burnout thing is real. What you're talking about, like I definitely felt like when I was on the road 3 weeks straight, it was like, man, this would be really hard to do this all the time. Like a week in between is fantastic, but like, man, go, and then you're like, all right, well, I got to take care of my responsibilities work wise, and it's just like, man, that burnout thing, I think is something that can happen, and that what leads to some of the dead bodies that you're talking about on the tournament road.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, whenever you're feeling like you have to make money out of it, it certainly, can take the fun away from it. And then whenever like you're not performing as well as you want to do, gosh, it makes it that much worse. And I feel like once the fun's totally sucked out, it's just a matter of time before, you're just burnt out and looking for something else to do.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
So
a lot of pressures there. Well, cool. No, and I think the really cool aspect with what you do is like you're surrounded by the fishing industry the rest of your time, right? Like when you're fishing derbies, that's great, but like the rest of the time, like you said, your two favorite things, travel and fishing, you're doing that just in a different manner. Like don't get me wrong, it's still work, but like look what you get to do. Like I gotta say, like I'm jealous. I gotta hear a little bit about like how you kind of got into this role with Dynamic.
I was I was going into my senior year, and I'd kind of known about, I had known Luke through college fishing. And kind of as I grew older, like I heard about Dynamic. I was a Bonus Bucks guy. I drive a Tundra. I was signed up for Bonus Bucks when I had a Tundra. That was like my first car. That's what I was driving in high school and stuff. And so I was signed up for the program, and I got a Bonus Bucks check one time, and I noticed that the address was a Tulsa address, like came from Dynamic Sponsorships in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I'm like, gosh, that's so weird. Like initially when I signed up, I didn't know who was behind the program. And so I just Googled Dynamic Sponsorships and like found their website and was like, wow, this is really cool. Like they represent all these brands that like I'm already using.
Right.
and it's all like the brands that are like you said, like you just associate like Elite Series and Toyota.
Yeah.
And so I'd kind of like put it away. I was like, man, that would be something that was really cool. I didn't really know what they did, right? I
Mhm.
was just like, oh wow, like fishing in Tulsa, like how cool is that? And then I went to school at Oklahoma State, and it was going to my senior year. A really good friend of mine started working for a advertising agency called Idea Ranch here in Tulsa. And I
I've
was
heard of
looking for
that.
internships and kind of reached out to him to see if he had anything. He's like, yeah, you should go online and apply at Idea Ranch. And so I went online and applied, and come to find out they're kind of sister companies with Dynamic. So
Hmm.
their offices are right next door. Dynamic has done a lot of like creative work for them in the past, like photo video projects, just different stuff. And so I interned over there over the summer, and kind of got to know the guys at Dynamic a little bit better just from being, next door. And we had a lot of mutual friends, just from like the local tournament scene here. I had a lot of mutual friends with the guys over there, and just kind of over that summer got to know everyone a little bit better. And then in this January of 2020 is whenever I went and started doing events for them. So it was really just kind of got my foot in the door, and it just happened that they were, sister companies with who I was interning with, and then really from there it just went to knowing the right people and networking, and it just kind of evolved into a really good relationship, and here I am.
That's awesome, dude. That's a great story, and I think a good lesson for a lot of guys that are college anglers right now, or you know, everyone wants to, like you said, chase that carrot of fishing on the Elite Series or fishing full time and making that a reality. But the reality of it is that that doesn't happen for everyone, and um, I think a great way to merge your passion and your career, right, is something in the fishing industry. And like that is exactly what you did. And it was super cool that it was in your backyard. Like that doesn't happen every day either, where it's like you find this great situation, but it's like you have to move across the country or something.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was definitely fortunate. Like I said earlier, too. Like Tulsa has quite a bit of industry here for kind of whatever reason. We have
Mm-hmm.
Lawrence, and Major League Fishing's
I
headquartered
was
here
gonna
as
say
well.
MLF's fishing, right? Is right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really fortunate that they were here and that I didn't have to move. Like I said, I grew up here. My fiance is from here. We've been dating since we were in high school. So like it would have
That's
certainly been
awesome.
tough to move, and I think that would have, if I had to have moved, it would have been a lot bigger conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it was just really neat how it worked out. Like I said, just it was really cool to step back and like see the progression of like I saw, when I was younger, like in high school, I like found out about Dynamic being in Tulsa, right? And like I got to know some of the guys kind of who worked there. Got to know Luke, like when he was doing the cart stuff in college fishing. I got to know a couple of the bonus buck, like the guys who do bonus bucks at the opens. And so it was like kind of something I always wanted to do, and it was like all of a sudden here I was. And so there's, it's just kind of cool for me to like look back and kind of watch the progression going from like finding out who they are and then to like actually working for them has been neat.
Yeah, man. It's like little stair steps along the way. It's been like a multiple year journey. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So it's cool. I've enjoyed it.
Very cool. Very cool. As far as the bonus buck stuff goes, as well as Yamaha Power Play, I think contingencies are a incredible thing for our sport and for bass fishing in general because it gives anglers an opportunity to make money with the gear that they're using and to run the best stuff. And if you're already using it, like you said, in college, driving a Toyota Tundra, you better be signed up for it. And was kind of Dynamic the driver on some on like major contingency programs in general, or was that a thing before and Dynamic said, hey, this is something we should really push into with our brands?
Man, that's a really good question that I wish I had the answer to, but I
Yeah.
don't. So I know
15
that,
years ago, you weren't there.
right. I know that the bonus bucks program, for instance, has been around forever. I don't know. I say I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like they had the Ranger Cup contingency program, which is the same thing, just on the bass boat side of things.
Yep.
Ranger Cup's been around forever.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true. That's a good
so
point.
I'm gonna say that Dynamic wasn't necessarily like the creator of it, But I think that they've done a really, really good job of bringing, like, for instance, a truck into it, which would be like Toyota was a non-endemic. And then, so not only bringing them into this space, but like, kind of like refining the program. So for like bonus bucks, we have over 600 tournaments across the country that are sanctioned events for bonus bucks. We pay boater and coangler in a lot of events. We've got a lot of team trails, and you don't have to win the event to win. Like, so like if you're the highest finisher, that you still get the same amount as if you won the event. So you could finish 10th and be the highest finisher, and it would pay the same as if you won first. Whereas I know a lot of other contingencies, you have to win the event
to win it,
to get like, the big prize. And if you finish like third, you might get $500.
Yeah.
But if you win, if it was first, you might get, I don't know, say a new boat. Like I know like Ranger Cup at the height of it when they were a really big sponsor with FLW, and like the, I think when it was the Costa series, it was like you would win like a 18-foot Ranger. It was crazy, dude. But again, you had to win. So I think that's something that Dynamic's done really well over the years. It's just kind of refined it and make it to be like where, hey, like if you're driving your truck and you have a good finish, like you're still going to make a pretty good chunk of change, and it's not unattainable per se, because there's only one winner per event.
Yeah.
And it's hard to win tournaments, especially big tournaments. So
yeah, no joke. No, I think these programs have been so good for bass fishing, and then you've seen like what Phoenix has done, right? With the Phoenix bonus bucks or not Phoenix bonus bucks, but like the Phoenix contingency program has made it to where, I mean, you know just as much as I do, when you go to a Toyota Series event, everyone is running, like there's a lot of people running a Phoenix, and it's because of that reason right there. Like if you win, it's an extra $35,000 to your pocket, and it also pays the second place guy. In a BFL, it changes the landscape of a BFL being like, hey, I won a couple grand, to like, wow, I made some money here today.
Yeah, I mean, $35,000 is a lot of money. Like that's that's not something you want to leave out there. And like, and I think personally, like it really makes people consider, like when you're going to buy a new truck or you're going to buy a new boat, like if you're a serious tournament angler, it's going to make you think, like, unless you have some smoking good boat deal with somebody, like, to me, it's going to make me sit and think like, okay, where can I have the chance to make the most money? Like I need to buy a truck. Like pretty much all trucks cost the same. Or I need to buy a boat. They're all roughly the same price, but where's the best benefit down the line?
Yeah. And I mean, no, I mean, to like your point, I mean, I know plenty of people right now that have never, were never driving Toyota Tundras until the contingency program, the bonus bucks, came out. And now, first of all, it's a great product. So like that's one aspect of it. It's like, hey, they've liked this truck, but now they're on their fourth Toyota Tundra.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, to me, that is just, I don't know, it was the coolest thing to see Toyota jump in and push that, and really you guys being behind it with Dynamic. But like that has been such a cool thing to me. And I think it's the same way with a lot of these contingency programs, is it's making people consider, okay, if I'm not a blue chip guy that is going to go and get a great boat deal with any brand, it's like I can really work hard to try and get a small boat deal, or I don't have to think about it. And again, as a tournament angler, to some extent, especially when you're at the highest level, you need to view yourself as a business, and what's gonna me the most as an individual to do this, because this is a very expensive journey. And it's like, if there's an aspect where I don't really have to put that much resources to it, and maybe promoting all this stuff, and I'm not able to get a great deal that way, I need to be running a Phoenix boats, because if I'm fishing these series, like this is a better deal than most pro deals are going to ever be.
Yeah, I mean, and kind of to piggyback on what you were saying about the Tundra, you said guys that had never driven a Toyota before, and they got into fishing and like saw the support that Toyota gives, and now they're on their fourth Tundra. That's one thing that we've really seen with these contingency programs, is built a ton of loyalty behind the brand. So we hear the same thing all the time. Like I'll sign a guy up for bonus bucks. He's like, yeah, I just bought a 2022 a couple months ago. it's my fourth Tundra. Like I trade every 2 years, and
to stay in the contingency.
Yeah. And it's like, it's just built, like it gets people in the brand, and they see how great some of these brands are. And, it just builds the loyalty. And like doing stuff like the Toyota Owners Tournament, we have so many people who have fished, year after year after year, who get to know the people in our office that, that put it on, and they become, legitimately good friends.
Yeah.
And all just they just came one year to fish the tournament, and they had such a good time and enjoyed it so much they came back the next year and the next year. And so it's just kind of neat to see, the loyalty behind the brands that people choose to support. And it kind of starts, probably at the Contingency.
Yeah, the grassroots level. I think that's something that's overlooked and I personally have definitely been one to overlook some of that stuff. It's like the power of the grassroots stuff, and that's, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm very much still a grassroots angler, but like those one-off events, the owners events for boat companies, for Toyota, like those are something that like your weekend guy is like, hey, I still want to go travel somewhere and fish somewhere. And if they go to that event and they have a great time, like you said, like those are relationships that go on forever. And it's just going to strengthen the relationship between that partner, Toyota, and the angler. I mean, they're like, that's just benefits everyone. That's so cool.
Yeah. And then you were talking about how, you got to run it like a business as a tournament angler. It's pretty amazing. One guy that comes to mind is Shane Powell, who fished the Classic, from Lake Eufaula in Alabama.
That's right. He kicked my butt in Alabama for that.
He sends more Yamaha Power Pay claims in than, like, I just hear people in our office who process the claims talking about, oh, Shane sent another one in. Like, it seems like
no way.
He's winning all the time on Lake Eufaula. He's one of the best anglers in that area. And like,
yeah.
I would love to know the number, like just the dollar amount that he won last year from contingencies. He's driven a Tundra for a long time as well. It adds up over time. And some of these events are paying, I know for a Toyota Series event, for example, it's $1,500 for the highest finisher and $1,000 for the second. So I mean, you cash in on 3 or 4 of those a year, and it starts to add up over time.
Yeah. And even the smaller stuff, man, like I've got Bass Nation stuff, and like, I mean, all that stuff pays. And it's, I mean, like you said, like you can legitimately, if you're a guy like a Shane Powell, right? Not everyone is a Shane Powell, but like you can like make what your payments would be on that vehicle just on your contingency.
Yeah.
Which is wild to me, or at least offset some of it.
Done.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like, it's a great situation. And one person that I would shout out that comes to mind with that, who's been super open with a lot of some of his finance stuff on YouTube. And I'm not a big YouTube guy at all, but someone that I have turned to a couple of times is Todd Castledine, man. Most recently, or not most recently, but over the winter here, he posted a video of his earnings, because he's one of those guys. It's like, I'd rather fish locally to some extent, travel in the Toyota Series, but like, man, he does really, really well locally and makes a living fishing. And he attributes a lot of that to contingency programs, Yamaha Power Play, and Skeeter boats, and I think a Toyota as well. But like,
yeah, he's been a Tundra guy for a while.
Yeah, and I think something like he was talking about his percentages of how much of his earnings from this previous year were from contingency programs and how important those are. And it was like 30 grand. Yeah. It was like, I mean, that's the difference in like making money for the year and not. Like, that's a good chunk of money.
Yeah, I know that I heard some stories like back in the day when he was with Legend. They had a really good contingency program. It would be like $10,000 for, there were so many tournaments, like over 50 boats. It was like a really, really good contingency.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And I know that there for several years he was just, I mean, bankrolling off the Legend contingency. Probably to the point where he was almost paying for his boat every year. Yeah. Just from the from the contingency program. So I totally believe it. Like you said, it's $30,000 is real money. That's, a lot of guys, that's the difference between being in the green and being in the red at the end of the year.
Exactly. Well, that's it's so cool. I think it's a great programs, and we need that just for how the nature of tournament fishing is and how hard it is to make money doing it. But one other question I had about Dynamic was, I mean, are you guys, like, it seems like you have worked with these really high level brands that are big audiences, and not necessarily just that, but like, I mean, major players. We're talking about Carhartt and Toyota and Yamaha. Is that it seems like that's kind of your niche, if you will, or these power play brands, and doing kind of the marketing and in-house stuff for them. I mean, is that accurate, I guess, or is there like you guys work with some smaller brands too, or is it mostly these high level brands and you try and develop a relationship and kind of keep that going?
I wouldn't say that it's like I'm trying to think. We're doing some stuff. We did stuff with Quantum Zebco, and they recently got bought out by Rather Outdoors. So we're doing a little bit of like media work and stuff for Strike King and Lose. But yeah, I just think that it's just kind of worked out. I think that a lot of that can be attributed to my boss Lance.
Okay.
And just developing relationships. He started out with Toyota when he started the business in 2006, I believe, and has just maintained a really good relationship with them. And then I think that's just other brands have seen, like what they've been able to do with Toyota and how they've, become such a big name in the space. And then I think that's just kind of transpired in other brands such as Yamaha. I mean, we just started working with Yamaha here within the last few years.
Gotcha.
So I think that, it's just, and again, in the fishing industry is so small too, that people take notice when stuff is, being done the right way and going well. So I'd have to attribute, a lot of that to really the whole team, but him and their relationship building that they've been able to do with these brands and maintaining. We worked with Toyota for like 15-ish years.
So cool.
And I know that in marketing, there's a lot of turnover. A lot of companies are looking for who can, who's the best bid.
That's literally I've got a friend in marketing not in fishing. Actually, that's not true. For a while, they were doing stuff with the fishing brand, but a marketing brand here in Denver that works with a lot of different companies, and it's like it seems like they're always getting chased down on a client because it's like, hey, we're paying you X amount of money. I want to see where these dollars are going to. And they're like, well, we have this other company over here that's going to be $40,000 less next year. It's like, yeah, how are we? Like, it's just it seems to be just chasing the lowest bid.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I would attribute a lot of that to, his relationship building as well as our whole team. And our whole team is passionate about the sport. And I think that really shows in, when we go to an event and do an activation, we all want it to look good and to be done right. And so whenever you're at these events and there's, you're at the classic and, all the decision makers are there and, they take notice, they're out walking around and, looking at who's doing what. And so I think that, just over the time and just building that reputation of doing things the right way and doing things, doing a good job on things and doing it right and making it look good has really helped Dynamic as a company get, like you said, the heavy hitters and the big brands in the sport.
Very cool. Very cool. And how many folks are with Dynamic? Like, what does the Dynamic team consist of?
So we've got, I want to say 8.
Okay.
Like that are W-2 full time that are in the office and they also travel on the road. And then we've got another team of about 6 to 8 that are 1099, road event people.
Gotcha.
And we're all kind of spread out. So I'm really the only one here in Tulsa that's 1099 event guy. We've got a couple out in North Carolina, a couple in Michigan. And then obviously, the whole in-house team is here in Tulsa.
Sure.
So I would say roughly 20.
Gotcha.
Including contractors.
Yeah. And of those contractors, of those 1099 guys, how many of them are fishermen that are on the road fishing too?
None other than myself.
Really? Just you?
Yep. Just me. And so like, 2 of our people that do it, Jamie and Vivian, they've been doing it so they actually, when Lance started Dynamic, they were doing Toyota activations under another marketing agency.
Okay.
And like back in the day, whenever Lance got the job, they just came over with him. So they've been doing it for like 20 years. They bring a ton of experience. And like I said, they're not fishermen like at all. They just, again, it's just a job. They just kind of ended up, doing it and they enjoy it and
they become passionate about it
like that. And they know, it's just funny because they know all the anglers, a lot of them personally. I mean, they've been at every Elite Series event for 10 years.
That's crazy.
And so they know so much about the sport, but it's like, and they like to fish. They like the outdoors, don't get me wrong, but they're not tournament anglers.
Yeah.
By any means, they're fish on a nice weekend a couple times a year.
Yeah. That's cool. That's crazy. Awesome, man. Well, thanks for the background with all that. I was just curious and wanted to get it out to our listeners as far as everything that Dynamic does and what you've done. Let's go into a little bit of your fishing. What are your kind of plans for 2022? What are you fishing this year?
So I'm staying pretty close to home this year. I'm fishing the Southwest Toyotas,
Nice.
and then I'll probably jackpot one or two others
around.
I'm going to fish the plains on Grand at the end of April.
Yeah.
So staying pretty close. I'll probably end up fishing 4 to 6 events,
Gotcha.
but probably only one full division. Last year I fished one Toyota Series in the Northern Opens, and 3 drives up there, 2 to New York and 1 to Virginia from Oklahoma is a lot, especially when you're already traveling. And I'm so glad I got to do it. It was an unreal learning experience, just getting to go up there and fishing stuff that I'd never fished.
Crazy. Yeah.
But for this year, like I said, had a lot going on and being on the road with work, I just kind of wanted to stay more regionally. And so I'm going to do the Southwest and just kind of jump in, another 1 or 2 here or there.
Yeah.
As my schedule allows.
No, I like that, man. And I think what's cool about one aspect, going back to our initial conversation on just running kind of a 1099 situation and fishing, gives you the flexibility there to not, like, if you were all in on fishing, right? Like, you wouldn't have a choice. Like, next year you got to go do 9 opens or you got to go all the tournaments, but kind of having that windfall of being like, hey, like, I've taken a step back and said, hey, I need to focus a little bit more on my 1099 income, and I want to have these goals here. So, like, same kind of situation, I'm fishing more of a local situation. I'm fishing more as a co-angler to where I don't have to go and practice for 5 days before the tournament, 3 days before the tournament, whatever it may be. So, like, I like that aspect of it, is that you don't have to fully give it up. And, like, because if you were to fish all in for 3 years and say you didn't make it happen, you have to go not just like give up fishing a little bit. It's like, man, I need to go get a job and make money and can't fish,
Right. Exactly. And
it gives you that ability
and try and make up for the lost time.
Exactly.
Because you probably have no money.
No, you're out. You're in credit card debt now, man. Like, you're deep. Yeah. But I don't know, just a cool aspect of it is, like, you can adjust, and then, like, maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, it's like, man, like, I've kind of got a good situation. I'm going to roll, and I'm going to go do 2 divisions of the Open in a Toyota Series or whatever.
And that's exactly what I'm doing with it and how I'm taking it. My initial plan this year was to fish the Southwest Toyotas and the Central Opens. And I didn't get in the Central Opens just because of the crazy waiting list and everything.
Right.
And like you said, like, if you're all in on it, like saying all in on 9 opens, you like got to go to New York or whatever. And like, after I knew I wasn't going to get in, I kind of looked back. I was like, maybe it's not that bad after all. Like, that's a pretty bad.
The Centrals, dude. Oh, gosh.
Yeah,
that is gonna be rough. I feel so bad.
I've been calling it the 2 fish tour. I was like, yeah, it's the 2 fish tour is gonna get kicked off here at the end of April.
The 2 fish tour. I like that.
And so, and like you said, so like now he was able to, like, okay, well, I'll just go a little different route this year, and next year we'll see what my work schedule is and what the fishing schedule is, and we'll make a decision from there, which I kind of like having that freedom a little bit.
Right.
And not necessarily feeling like I'm on this like timeline of, gotta go all in or nothing. It's kind of nice to be able to just feel it out as it comes. And like I said, I don't want to say last year when I fished the Northerns, like, knew I wasn't going to qualify, but like, I'm a realistic person. Like, I know that my chances of going up north, being from Oklahoma and having never fished up there, been like qualifying for the Elite Series, like top 3 out of some of the best fishermen in the region, is like probably pretty slim. But went up there with the mindset of, okay, I have the opportunity to do it. Like, it'll be a great learning experience, whether I come back next year or in 5 years. Like, it's, knowledge that I'm not going to forget and can take with me moving forward, no matter what the timeline looks like of my tournament career per se.
Yeah, no. And I think that's a concept that needs to maybe be adopted by some people, but like, some people view as like, okay, this is my chance, and if I make it, I make it, and if I don't, like, I'm like out of luck. But at the same time, like, I don't know, someone that comes to mind would be like a Josh Douglas. Like, he fished the Opens for 10 years. Like, that is like, I mean, the amount, and it's a compounding learning situation. Like, you will at some point if you keep tournament fishing, you'll likely go back to the St. Lawrence River. Well, just being there one time is a massive step up, or just fishing for smallmouth in that situation on those northern fisheries. So like, it's not wasted time, right? Like, it's still investing in your future career and future fishing. And by the way, like, I don't know, that was the coolest place I've ever been to fishing.
Absolutely,
that place was
dude.
incredible, dude.
If I get the chance, I saw that there is a Toyota series there in September, the same time we were there last year. It's like, man, that's really tempting me if it works out to maybe make a little trip up there, because in August it's so miserable here,
Yeah.
and the fishing sucks. Like, oh, it was awesome, dude. Like you said, it was the most incredible place I've ever fished.
Dude, that was just I mean, so much water, and all of it was full of fish, and I've never experienced anything like it.
Yeah, I agreed. I learned more in the week that I was up there than, I think I was up there for like 10 days. And I learned more in that 10 days than I feel like I could have, in 5 years of just like, smallmouth fishing, like a little bit in Oklahoma or wherever it may be, because it was just so totally different than any place I'd ever been. I mean, the amount of current was unbelievable. How deep you can catch them was unreal. It was just, man, like I said, it was just such a good learning experience.
Yeah.
It was invaluable. And like you said, you just don't ever know, whether it's next year and 5 years or 10 years, like, you're going to fish another tournament at the St. Lawrence River if you keep, fishing at that level. Like, it's just a matter of time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's certainly not wasted.
Yeah. Yeah. No, man, exactly. That's how I feel with that stuff. And I think we're on similar pages with those approaches. I think it's a good way to go for some people. And again, like, not trying to take away from someone's dream of if they want to be a pro angler and go for it all. It's just like, that's kind of the path that you've chosen. And to me, same kind of to some extent. And that's like, it's cool. That's what I like about the fishing industry, is like, you can take it as far as you want to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can be anyone from a guy who's fishing on a pond to being a kayak guy to fishing your local derbies and Tuesday nighters, and to the guy who goes to the Toyota Bonus Bucks Championship every year because that's a great time with your buddies, to the guy that's like trying to make it, and then the guys that do make it. So it's just like, I don't know, you got to kind of choose what's right for you and what path you want to take.
Well, that's cool too, because like the way that I'm choosing to go about it isn't right or wrong, and it's not the same way that someone else has to do about it or go about it. It's just totally different for everyone based on their circumstance, based on their wants. And like you said, there's only so many of the 1%ers of the the Brandon Polnicks, the Jacob Wheelers, the Jordan Lees. Like, I know for me personally, like, again, when I was younger, I thought it would be a lot like more clear cut and easier than it is. And it's neither of those things at all. Like, it's, I mean, it's just the learning. I mean, seriously, the learning, like, because you see people doing it, and it's like, oh, it looks easy, right? Like, when you're watching TV, like, and you're in high school, you're like,
that's the problem. Like, they make it like it just looks so easy,
right? And so you think, okay, well, like, I'll go fish in college, like, and then I'll, like, fish the Toyota series of the Opens for a few years, and I'll be well on my way. And it's like, hold on, but there's a whole lot to learn in between there.
Yeah. Dude, you're dead on. And I think especially people on the outside of fishing that don't understand that, like, that aspect of like how much skill is involved with these high level guys. It's like, man, you've been doing it for so long. Like, why aren't you fishing at that level? And it's like, no, dude, I'm telling you, it is way, that's so much harder than you think.
Yeah, it's like, I don't even have time to explain it. Like,
yeah.
And I know, like, for me personally, like, I've oftentimes found myself getting frustrated, like, feeling like I'm not progressing like as fast as I want to be, or maybe as fast as it looks like some other people are. But I know for me personally, like, I just sometimes have to step back and be, okay, like, I'm 24, like, I'm still like super young. Like, look at most of the guys who are, having really successful or have built a name for themselves, like even regionally, like the Castle Dines. They've probably been tournament fishing, some of them longer than I've even been alive.
It's true, man.
And so I just kind of have to remind myself of that, because it is tough. And it can be easy to get down on yourself, especially fishing, Toyota Series or Opens, when there's so many good, not just like professional anglers, but local regional anglers fishing them. It can just really be easy to think like, oh man, I'm not good enough. But like you said, it's just, there's so much to learn, and it's really just such a time consuming process. And the only way to learn is to go and do it. I've taken a lot of butt kickings. And like, it never gets any easier, and it never sucks any less, but usually, like, after I get over it, like over licking my wounds, I'm like, okay, well, I learned this, this, and this, and like we'll just have to get up, dust ourselves off, and apply that at the next one.
Yeah.
But like we said, it's just such a long road and can feel so frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, you got to have some serious, some thick skin, man, because you get absolutely beat on in this game. At least most people do, unless you're like you said, a 1%er, a Jacob Wheeler. Those guys just apparently come out catching them. But it's just, I don't know.
I wish I knew the secret. I wish I did. I would bottle it up and sell it for as much as I possibly could.
That's exactly right. Secret sauce. These guys are crazy. But Jake, thanks, man. We'll kind of get into wrapping things up here. I guess first question, being that you were someone who fished in college, jumped into a career in the fishing industry that allows you to still fish, that kind of a thing, I think, is a special deal. And I just wanted to, I guess, ask if there's any, and you've had some awesome advice to this whole thing, but any piece of advice that you could give to someone that's maybe in that same position in college right now or out of college. You could be 35 right now, like, hey, I want to do something else in my life to where I can kind of chase some of this stuff. What's a big piece of advice that you'd have to someone interested in chasing the path that you are on?
So I kind of touched on this earlier. And this industry is so small. Everyone seems to know everyone, and when one person leaves a company, it seems like they go to another. And in the space, and you hear it all the time. I know I heard it all through high school and college. Is just to network, meet as many people as you can. If you're at events, like say you're fishing in college, like shake hands with the guy handing out Carhartt stuff, because he works for somebody. He's not just there volunteering his time. Like they didn't just find him, that day to hand out some hats and codes to college anglers. Like he works for somebody. So like make yourself known, get to know the people and stay in touch with them. And don't be afraid to like reach out and foster those relationships, especially as you're, looking for an internship or nearing the end of college. Not everyone that you meet, you're going to hit it off with and develop a really good relationship, but you meet enough people, eventually you will, and oftentimes it will turn into something.
Yeah, dude, I like that a lot. And I think that's something, that last part, I think I've definitely missed out on before in the past of two parts there. Being afraid to like, okay, I made the connection, but then also like following through and saying, hey, like, maybe there's something here, and asking those things. It's like, you feel weird kind of doing that, but like, that's how you build some of those relationships and get your foot in the door, so to speak, with those companies. And then the other aspect that I really liked there was that not every relationship, every person you meet, like, I don't know, I've made it out of my head sometimes, be like, man, I'm going to go meet this person with this industry, but like, you don't really hit it off. And you're like,
yep,
man, I was really thinking that was going to be like the deal. And then but you got to look back at those moments where like you did really hit it off with someone. And those are kind of those, I think, relationships to lean on, because I don't know, there's always kind of a connection there.
Yeah, like I've had the exact same feelings before. Like you meet someone and you're like, that did not go how I thought it was, and like you meet them one time and you never talk to them again.
Yeah, you're like, nope.
And like like you're gonna eventually, like if you meet enough people, you're gonna hit it off, and when you, like you said, when you do hit it off, it normally leads into a really good relationship, and it's not something that you can force. Like it's just got to happen naturally, and when it does, you'll know.
Yeah, it's your time. It's your time in fishing and in relationship building.
Absolutely.
Boom. Life with Adam and Jake. Man, before you go, three biggest largemouth, smallmouth, and spotted bass, where you were and what you caught them on.
Okay. My biggest largemouth was 10 pounds even.
Even 10-0-0.
10-0-0.
That's wild.
I caught it at Lake Fork on a Carolina rig in August.
Dang, in August, man. That's got to be brutal time.
It was,
like temperature.
Yeah, it was not when you think it would happen. My biggest spotted bass is pretty weak. I don't have an official weight, somewhere like 3 1/4, maybe, just around Oklahoma. I've never really fished any. I say I haven't really fished any. I fished like some Coosa River lakes. Like,
oh yeah,
I've been to Lay Lake and a couple other places out there, Neely Henry, but I've never, like, places that you think you're going to catch a big spotted bass. I never did.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest one I've ever caught was probably on Grand, biggest spotted bass. Like I said, in that 3
There's some
1/4
random
pound range.
hammers in there. Like I've seen,
There
like
are
I mean,
there
like
are some
3 and 4 pounders. Like
there
I
are
was
some
just
big
like
spotted bass.
seen
Yeah,
a
and
couple of them weigh.
there's a couple like really big unicorn smallmouth too.
Really, I caught one smallmouth there. I think I was in the Elk. I caught like a 16-inch smallmouth. And I was
Oh,
like,
really? See,
wow,
I've
this is
never caught a
crazy.
smallmouth, but occasionally you'll see. Like I remember at a Toyota Series, gosh, it's probably been like 5 years ago.
Mhm.
The guy in front of me weighed in like a 4 pounder.
Wow.
So
Wow.
you don't see them caught very often, but there
No,
are a few.
that's
And
crazy.
then my biggest smallmouth, man, I don't know exactly. I've had a few. I don't know if I've ever hit 6 pounds. I've had a few really heavy fives though.
Yeah.
Let's see, I'm trying to think. Last year on the St. Lawrence, I caught a couple heavy fives. And then a few years ago, I got the opportunity to fish on Mille Lacs with Seth Fighter.
No way. What a
Yeah, it was
dream
awesome.
deal.
It was right before he won the AOI championship there.
Right before he made
So
it big.
yeah, so it was like 2016, I think, that summer. We were there in July. My dad and I flew up and got to fish with him.
That's wild.
And oh, dude, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And I caught several heavy fives that I would have liked to have weighed, but whenever you watch him just like catch like a 5 3/4 and shrug it off and throw it back, I was too scared to ask for the scale. So I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good one, and just threw it back. So
That's
I don't
awesome.
know biggest smallmouth. We'll say 5 3/4, somewhere in there. I'm pretty certain I've never hit 6, but I do. I feel like in my mind, a 6 pound smallmouth like a 10 pound largemouth. So I really want to see.
100%.
I really want to see a 6 pound largemouth hit the scales. Um,
Yeah. Dude,
but
that's
I'm not gonna say I've caught a 6 that I officially seen it on the scale. So
verified. Yeah. No,
we'll
like
call it 5 3/4.
5 3/4, man. I think that's fair. Like at the St. Lawrence, it was crazy to me. Like I my biggest smallmouth before going to St. Lawrence was 5 pounds. And so it was like I broke it and then I broke it again, then I broke it again. And I think I got to 5.84 or something, right?
Yeah,
But like right before that, it was like 5.6, 5.7. Like there's so many heavy fives. It's just like that is like you said, it's just like breaking that double digit mark for largemouth, but like
and it's like catching a 10 pounder. I mean,
magnums.
it's like I caught my 10 pound largemouth. Gosh, probably like 8 or 9 years ago. Probably
Yeah.
8 years ago. It's like I've caught some 8s and 9s since then, but like can't eclipse the 10. Like it's
No.
just something about it, man. It's like the
That
fishing
magic
gods
number.
keep making you wanting to come back for more because you can't see 10-0-0 on there. It's 9-14 or whatever it may be.
That's
And I feel
exactly
like it's
right.
the same with smallmouth. So I know I'll catch one eventually. I just
You'll
again
get there.
you got to go fish for fish at places they live.
That's right, dude. That's right. Well, awesome. Well, Jake, man, I really appreciate you taking the time out, coming on the show today and talking everything about dynamic. When this airs, it'll be next Monday morning, so we will be practicing probably at Texoma. So thanks for coming on, man. I just really appreciate you taking the time out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like I said, thanks for having me. I was looking forward to doing it, and hopefully I'll see you next week at Texoma.
No doubt, man. Awesome. All right, man. Well, I will see you later.
All right, talk to you later, Adam.